And we are back. Man, March has been a busy month for the Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports. Speaking of Betfred Sports, currently operating in 10 states: Iowa, Colorado, Arizona, Ohio, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, retail only, Washington, and Nevada. You got the NBA, MLB, NHL, and, of course, college sports. In Iowa, you can get in on the no-sweat first bet offer. Get up to $105 in Fred Bucks back on your first bet if it loses. Just download the Betfred Sports app on the Apple and Google Play stores. Terms, conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus, located in the state of Iowa or wherever you're betting that it's legal. And don't forget, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Dr. Rob, what's going on, buddy?
It's a Friday night.
We are recording on a Friday night. It's Good Friday.
It is.
Yeah. Now,
it is.
Are you one of those guys that goes to church like twice a year, Christmas and Easter?
You know what? I keep the church in my heart.
Is that what it is? So what you're telling me, you're not even going to go to church on Easter. Either am I. I'm one of these fallen away Catholics.
I got nothing.
I go back and forth. I'll go to church like every Sunday for a year, and then I don't go for 2 years.
Which is weird because I'm kind of, I don't know if religious is the right word.
You're spiritual. My wife likes to use spiritual, right?
But I do have kind of, it's not one of these things where I feel the need, I'm going to go to a Hindu temple.
Okay.
If I go, I'm going to a Lutheran church, and I feel like there's a connection.
Oh, so you're Catholic wannabe?
No, Catholic light.
No, you're a Catholic wannabe.
Catholic light.
Are you?
It's all the beer meat on Fridays and prophylactic plaid sex.
Help me understand the Lutheran thing, okay? Because
I just explained.
No,
it.
you did not. Because when I go to Mass in Omaha, or if I go to Mass in Lincoln, if I go to Mass in Grand Island or Kearney or Scottsbluff, I go to the same service, right? You guys have like the Missouri Synod and something else, right?
Okay, so you've got the Missouri Synod, you got the Wisconsin Synod, and you've got the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, or ELCA.
There's a Wisconsin Synod? I didn't know that.
There is.
Okay.
So, and you can almost think of it in terms of sort of like stages of when and how far they broke away from the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And so the ELCA is probably the farthest away from the traditional Catholic Church.
Okay.
In terms of
service, music, all that stuff.
Well, truth be told, it's a lot of the liturgy is the same. People are hopping on this for Husker football talk, and they're getting theology.
One of the two things you should never talk about: religion and politics, right?
One of our Twitter followers, he had a great line. God, this was like a year or so ago. It was, come for the football, stay for the theology.
That's right.
The liturgy is very similar to what I would consider a more contemporary Catholic church service.
Okay.
So ELC, probably the farthest away. Missouri Synod, probably the next closest to the traditional Catholic faith. Like the ELCA people are looking over at the Missouri Synod people and going like, gee, holy Christ, a bunch of freaking conservatives over there. Those guys are hardcore. And then the Missouri Synod people are looking at the Wisconsin Synod people and just going like, for the love of all that's holy, why don't you just
be Catholic?
Why don't you just say you're Catholic?
Okay.
Because that's what you still are.
That makes a lot of sense.
So, and it's kind of like within the Lutheran Church, ELCA, we're like the crazy liberals.
Yeah.
The Missouri Synod's kind of conservative. The Wisconsin Synod, again, it's like...
So there you heard it, folks.
It's like say, why don't you just say you're Catholic?
So there you heard it, folks. Rob just confessed on the Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports. He's a crazy liberal. There you go.
Catholic light.
You are a crazy liberal.
I'm a Catholic light. How's that?
Well, now's a good time to bring in our guest. He's a repeat in the basement, and it's always good to have this man in the basement. The CFO of Husker Athletics, Mr. Doug Ewald. Did you think you'd get into a religious conversation?
No, but I went by my old church on the way here, St. Pius, and now I think I've kind of met my obligation congratulations for the week.
Yeah, you just did the sign of the cross on the way by.
Good Friday service done.
It's interesting because you went to, was it St. Pius St. Leo at the same time you went?
No, it wasn't. No, but it was not St. Leo yet when I was there.
Okay, so it's St. Pius. Now, when you drive by, do you get like post-traumatic stress syndrome? Because I know a lot of people your age, you're a little older than me, that have that Catholic school experience. Like, oh, Sister Mary Margaret used to beat my ass with a ruler.
No, we had a lot of good times in playing on the outdoor playgrounds out there.
Yeah.
So, a lot of bat ball and German bat ball and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so. Anytime I got a chance to throw a ball at somebody, it was good.
Now, you were a hell of a baseball player too, right?
Played a little bit.
A little bit. Did you play in college?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yes.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Buena Vista in Storm Lake, Iowa.
Okay.
Played for Coach Olson here at Omaha Northwest.
We talked about this last time he was on the podcast.
Listen, I take gummies. My memory starts to go, okay?
I've got CTE and I'm drinking 11% beers on the podcast.
He's drinking a Christmas beer, too. They don't make an Easter beer, so you grab the Christmas beer?
Next best thing, the Mad Elf from Trog's Brewery. This is from Jason Werner. Jason's one of our guys out in PA who always hooks us up. So Jason's the guy who sends us one of the beers he sent. It didn't list the alcohol by volume. It just had a QR code on the bottle. You had to go to the
scan it.
Yeah, if you really wanted to know the ABV, you had to scan the QR code.
Now Doug's being good. He's only drinking water with us tonight. So so far, we may get like an hour and a half into this and be like, "Get me something to drink."
I gotta have something.
Speaking of that, let's just cut to the chase. You've had an incredible 2 weeks at Husker Athletics.
Yeah, needless to say, that's probably an understatement. Yeah.
So I know, based on our relationship personally and also being on this podcast, you were really close with Trev. Did you know in advance that he was leaving? And we won't spend a lot of time on this because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But I mean, we got to get the obvious question out of the way.
That's the obvious. I knew nothing, just like most everybody else knew nothing.
Wow. That was a well-kept secret because usually somebody knows something and you get a little leak out there.
Right.
When I got to work, Rob's is the one that texted me. You're like, hey.
And you didn't even know what I was talking about.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
I just assumed you'd seen it.
No. And I got was your first thing like getting on Google in the morning going, holy crap.
No, I was sitting in my office and all of a sudden, boom, I got the D1 ticker flashes and somebody's leaking this from Texas. And it's like, oh boy, I hope this is wrong. But I kind of knew pretty legitimate sources out there at the end of the day.
Wow. Do you take that personally?
He called me the next morning, had a short 5-minute conversation with him. He apologized and, but it was like, we talked about you kind of the stages of grieving. The first day was kind of, boy, you're just, is that really happening? The second day, Thursday was denial. And like I said, on Friday, everybody was just pissed off around the office because I'm sitting there going, damn, this dude brought me here 2.5 years ago. I could have still been at the Med Center with Dr. Gold and, cashed all those chips in. I didn't say, I haven't burned any bridges there, obviously. But, no warning whatsoever. Don't know what the tipping point, although the only conversation I had with him on that Thursday morning was, Trev, as big as a guy you are when it comes to honesty, integrity, and when that was leaked from somebody in Houston or wherever it was, I said that was your chance to walk it back. You could have walked it back at that point in time and said, and what he told me, he goes, when that happened, when that leak, he had no offer, none. He had no offer had been presented to him, nothing on the table. I said, well, there was your chance to walk it back right there.
So, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but was he in Lincoln when all this was taking place, just not coming to work?
He was in Lincoln the Saturday before. I know that they flew him down there, down and back that day. And I know, Interim President Kabork asked him not to go. I know he had done a Zoom call probably a week and a half or so before then. And then I know Chris asked him, hey, don't go. What's it going to take you to stay? Type deal. We just went through this last November, got you a new contract. Things were good, and he, for whatever reason, was compelled to make the trip.
Wow. And then, so you go through the stages of grief, and then it didn't take long. Nebraska acted quickly and brought Troy Dannon in.
Correct.
So, what's your first impressions of Troy? And because did you guys know each other beforehand? And what's been the first couple of days like?
Yeah, no, we didn't know each other. I know you've known him.
33 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Is it 33 years I've known him?
I haven't had any one-on-one time with him, but I'll say this: he's straightforward. He's not afraid to make a decision. Sets expectations. So anxious to get a little more time with him and sort this thing out. I want to be here. I'm one of the people that believes that you need to come to work every day and show your value, prove your value every day. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of my track record. I'll let that speak for itself, and just here to add value every day.
Yeah, and you're the money man. You're the bean counter, and you're really good at counting beans. You did it at UP. You did it at the state of Nebraska as a tax commissioner.
Did it for an entire state.
Yeah. And did the Med Center, UNO. Let's talk about that, because that's been brought up. Is what is the future of the system look like? And this may not be an athletics question, but it's a money question.
This is an AAU question.
This is an AAU question, because I'm one of these guys, and talk me off the ledge, because Rob and I did a podcast last week.
And because on the medical side of things,
okay,
I'm getting hammered with questions on the AAU.
So I'm one of these guys that I don't understand the AAU. I don't think the average fan knows or even cares about the AAU. It's one of these bragging things. Talk me into the AAU and why it's valuable, if you believe that.
Well, I'll say this. There's three things that the Big Ten has told us that's important in being relevant. One, I brought my list, but I wrote these down the other day. But it's being relevant in football. It is, I forget the second one now. It'll come to me. But the last one was membership in the AAU. There's 17 of 18 are. We're the only ones out. Based on research, based on my knowledge and going back and looking at the situation, we should have never been kicked out to begin with. Troy came from Tulane. Tulane was on AAUP probation for all the 7 years he was there, I think he said.
Tulane was?
Yes, Tulane was, exactly.
Wow.
Our challenge is that our medical center is not adjacent with UNL or whoever. We're in a different city. We're going to go combine some research dollars now.
Can I ask a question?
Well, it is part of your podcast, so yes.
It is. If you don't let me ask a question.
Some people do think I talk too much, though.
Okay, so I'm kind of a career University of Nebraska guy. My dad was a director for Nebraska for 40 years. I've got two brothers. All three of us were Nebraska grads. Our wives are Nebraska grads. Well, one's a Wesleyan grad. Somebody's got to be different. My brother's got a UNMC degree. I've got a UNMC degree. When you're within that system, the whole thing looks the exact same.
Amen.
Yeah.
From a system standpoint, as far as we're concerned, it's not like you're sitting there and going, well, I'm University of Nebraska. Hold on. Lincoln.
Right.
Or I'm University of Nebraska Medical Center. Or I mean, there's a little bit of geographical distance with Kearney. I understand that. But I mean, my older brother's got a PhD from UNMC that he worked on, did all the research on, all on the Lincoln campus.
It's a pain in the butt.
So I'm sitting here, I'm going like, why is there this perceived or real separation between the University of Nebraska and the University of Nebraska Medical Center? Because in my mind, if you're in one or the other, you view them. From an internal experience standpoint, it's the same system.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not an AAU expert. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But it seems a little unusual just because the two aren't in the same city, working next door side by side with each other, that you don't get accumulate all your research in one filing, you know?
And that's the thing that always drove me insane. I mean, when I was in medical school, two of our biochemistry professors are UNO professors.
Well, let's use engineering as an example.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about it in the last podcast. You can go to the Scott Engineering Technology Center in UNO, but your degree is going to say UNL.
Right. You got the bus going back and forth every day, guys.
What a waste of money. As a bean counter, that should drive you nuts when you see that bus going back and forth every day.
Back in the day, I think there was a lot of. I think Scott was not real happy when that whole thing went down. He feels that Lincoln stole that from UNO. I mean, I think that was the sentiment at the time. So
yeah, so the Big Ten wants you to be in the AAU, but you need to bring. So would the Med Center stop being called University of Nebraska Medical Center and just become University of Nebraska Lincoln and the med school? Or?
Yeah, I don't know how you have to combine that. The big thing is combining that research. Like I said, I understand we shouldn't have been kicked out to begin with,
which it seemed
political.
I mean, you can, and we do. But you can bitch and moan about Harvey Perlman all you want. At the time,
even Doug laughs.
At the time,
I've got a few Harvey stories.
I know. Just at the time, getting kicked out of the AAU, I remember at that point in time, thinking, why the hell are we getting kicked out of the AAU? Because there's 40 miles or 48 miles, whatever, between UNMC and UNL. Like it made zero sense to me I mean, in practicality, on paper, however you wanted to look at it, it seemed completely ridiculous to me.
Well, and what I understand is if this was today, if they had to vote on putting us in the Big Ten today, we probably don't get in today because we don't have that. We're not part of the AAU.
Really?
Yes.
Like that alone.
That alone in today's eyes would keep us out. So what we have to look, here's go, hey, all the great things Coach Osborne did, here's another one. Got us in the Big Ten back when he did. So we owe that man more than just a few championships anyway.
But at the time, they were also members of the AAU, right? They were members, and then
I don't.
Yeah, it was
like 6 months afterwards they got booted out.
I don't know the timing, guys.
Yeah. No, and again, he's an admitted not AAU or expert.
I don't know if Osborne was AD or not when they got kicked out.
So you mentioned Dr. Gold hired you when you were up here in Omaha. He was just he's going to be president, right?
Right.
So happy with that decision?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he's brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. He brought me in there. I ran UNMC and UNO at the same time when he had both campuses. It's clear to me that he's brought in there to get us back in the AAU. I understand that he has a relationship with one of the key people that's responsible for putting people back in the AAU.
Okay.
And I'll say this though, it's never happened before.
Really?
That's what I understand.
So if you've been in the AAU, been kicked out, nobody's ever got.
That's my understanding. Nobody's ever been allowed back in. It's this difference between being on probation, obviously, and so I don't know.
Okay, so here's a question. I don't recall Nebraska ever being on probation. Were we?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it was kind of a one and done type thing.
See, that was the thing, and I think that was the reason why there was sort of this. At the time, I remember when it happened, the discussion of it within the media, and there seemed to be a lot of emotional trauma about this.
Oh yeah, because it was like a kick to the nuts.
You lost your badge of honor, with the faculty,
But I don't think it was one of these things where Nebraska, crap, we kind of knew this might be coming. There wasn't that. It was like it was a Friday, and then all of a sudden it's a Monday, and we're not in the AAU anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I don't get it. I'm one of these guys where if you're winning at football, that's all that really matters.
Well, you're not wrong. And I think back then Harvey was probably the chancellor in Lincoln.
Yes.
And
Perlman was.
And Hal Maurer was at the Med Center. And I understand that they would have, board meetings, and those two would throw daggers across the table at each other. They had to actually separate them. So that probably didn't help.
All I will say is I was on the student senate when I was in medical school.
Yeah.
Which means I hung out with Chancellor Maurer a lot.
Yeah.
I'm taking his side on this one. All I know is I really, really like that.
Well,
guy.
I think what Doug is implying here, and it should be no surprise, in a large university system where you have a powerful athletics department, you have a powerful med school, you have faculty in academics. There's a lot of politics.
There's a lot of politics. Hey, you have to figure out how to get along. Because I don't know how much that relationship, the strain, kicked us out, or I don't know if there's anything to that or not. I doubt it, but if you're in the same system, you better figure out how to get along.
There is we said this last week when we were doing a podcast. We were live, and I said, listen, there's nothing bigger. The brand of any university is its athletic department. I mean, it's just, unless you're an Ivy League school, but the brand,
even then, I look at Harvard, and there's two things I look at when I look at Harvard. There's Harvard medicine. I've got a little bit of experience with that. And then it's the freaking Harvard-Yale football game.
Yeah, that's true, which I would always love to go to that. Have you done any analytics or studies on what the brand of Nebraska athletics brings to the university itself in the state? Are there any numbers like that where you can say, I know it's soft dollars or it's perceived dollars, but
right.
It's got to be in the hundreds of millions.
Well, it's a big number, and here to tell you how big it is, we will – not being as successful we want in football, that's probably a kind statement on my behalf. We're still Adidas will rotate between their number 1 or number 2 school every year in and year out.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We've talked about this on the air before, that anytime they do.
No, I didn't know that they were Adidas's number 1 or number 2 school.
I know,
though.
But I mean, when we talk about brand recognition, marketing values, social media engagement, there's all these parameters that you can follow. Every damn year, Nebraska's top 20, top 25 in the country when it comes to that brand recognition value.
Well, and this is why I get in a fight with my Iowa friends, because I still say Nebraska is a blue blood when it comes to football. And they're like, no, if you haven't won in 20, I'm like, listen, it doesn't.
Hey, Alabama went 20 years and they sucked ass.
Yes.
They're still a blue blood.
Yes. I mean, they're this when you've won as many games, had as many sellouts, perceived sellouts, and then just are able to put that whole package together from fans across the country, you can't deny that. I mean, even if you're a hater, you can't deny the power of the brand, right?
That's right. And we go to some quite large extremes to protect the brand. And cease and desist letters and stuff like that for people that aren't licensed or don't have approval to use it or whatever. So and that's a benefit to Adidas as well. So we protect the brand.
Is there a lot of that? I mean, because when you see Husker this, a lot of companies, but do you like to go after them, or what's the protocol?
I think we have an intellectual property attorney at Office of the President, and that's her specialty. So we find something, and there's always the first kind letter that goes out or some communication there. And then, if they don't take it down or respond, we'll get a little bit more aggressive, obviously.
Can we get in the nitty gritty now? Let's get in the NIL, because this is because Trev brought it up at his news conference at Texas A&M, and Troy brought it up at his introductory news conference, and that is in the near future, there's going to be a line item in athletic budgets. $15 to $20 million was the number that's been out there, that will basically be the universities paying players. And you informed me that there's a bill in second reading in the unicameral right now that would basically move that in-house.
Allow me give you the option.
Option to. So you don't have to if you don't want to.
No.
How long before? I mean, you were here a year ago and you said, hey, eventually it's going to go in-house. How long do you think it is before it goes in-house?
Well, I don't know what, hey, I don't know. I know that's Trev's idea, maybe. I don't know what Troy thinks. I would think that maybe there's a combination of the two, that you can get the best of all worlds with, the great stuff that 1890 has done. And then people donating directly to the athletic department to kind of supplement that. I know some of the big schools, their NIL's running anywhere from 20 to 25 million a year. We're probably around 6 or 7. Now, we don't think we need to be 20 or 25. I can tell you that.
Okay.
But we know there will be people that, hey, I'm not going to give, and this, I love 1890, but individuals say, I can't get a tax deduction for that. I'll give it straight to the university and use the money and ask them to use it that way.
So you just use the foundation in that way?
Use the foundation, correct.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, hey, pay to play, it's coming. and that's the Oliver and House cases. We're hopeful. They want to get that settled. And the reason they want to get the settled, the attorney that brought the Alston case, he wants to retire. So
let's wrap this up.
Exactly, Rob. Let's wrap this up. So, we think that could be $30 million a year, but we think you're going to get credit for paying for athletes' costs of attendance. The Alston money, we're already paying the $59.80 that we're giving to every athlete, men, women, full scholarship, partial or walk on. We're doing the whole thing right now. So, but by the time you look at all those combined, I've got a $20 million bogey in my cash flow going forward. It might not be quite that much, but I'm going to be a conservative here.
So let me ask you, with the Big Ten money, we're talking $100 million a year, college football playoff just signs a $7.8 billion deal. Without 1890 or fan support, could the University of Nebraska, in your mind, support a $10 to $20 million number without any of that support, without fan financial support?
Yes.
So you're in a much better situation than most universities.
Yes, exactly, and in large part because we don't have a lot of debt. This is the first year we had some debt. We're paying off the Go Big. That'll be done here this year. We want to have that done before we embarked on any stadium project, no matter what that might look like or the magnitude of that. So we took some money out, borrowed from the internal lending program at the university, 4% money, which looks pretty good now. I mean, Chris Kaborki did a wonderful thing probably 3 or 4 years ago when they went out and refinanced $700-800 million at 2.98%, more than they needed. And that money is evergreen, so all the campuses can tap into it at 4%, or if it's your stringing it out for more than 15 years, it's 4.5%.
What I hear you saying, and sorry, Rob, but your time at UP, your time at the state, even the Mets, everyone thinks athletics is like that's the easy road. It seems like you've dealt with more crap.
So it's I'm kind of battle tested, I guess. You're not. The years at UP, and in particular the tax commissioner, you don't take that job unless you got really thick skin. So there's not a whole lot of things that ruffle me. I wear my emotions on my sleeve and if it's something stupid, I'll tell somebody that, but it's got to make some financial sense. But if you tell me to, go down this route and figure it out, I'll figure it out.
So a little bit of a tangent here. How does this affect schools not like Nebraska? How does this affect a Kansas State and Iowa State? In Iowa
does pretty good.
Yeah, I think they do. They've had more debt. I mean, Ohio State's got a ton of debt. Here's the deal, guys. Rutgers and Maryland today each get $30 million from their campus to support athletics. And if you got to add another 20 on top of that, how's that going to work?
Wow.
I mean,
it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
Because already Rutgers, you had state senators questioning why they were paying Greg Schiano so much money. Right. This is an interesting question. It comes up on my radio show quite a bit. If this money starts to increase for players, do you think coaches' salaries will start to decrease?
Yeah, I think you might see coaches going, hey, how much money do I really need? I'll sacrifice a couple $1 million a year to make sure I'm successful. And I'm gonna take my I get a bonus for making this or a bonus for that level of pay for success, and so hey, I'm gonna be doing that. That's gonna allow me to do that, and I'm gonna get my bonus that way.
Reminder.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne, 1997, $200,000 salary.
Yeah.
He got a $50,000 bonus for winning the national title.
That's crazy. So when we get it, if it moves in house, and I'm peppering you with questions that, and just so everybody knows, we never come in here with prepared questions. We just start as a conversation, and stuff just comes to my mind.
And then we start drinking.
And who knows where it goes after that. But is there a fine line at that point when athletes become employees? And if you become an employee, does Title IX fit into that scope of payment?
That's my question.
Yeah.
So here's my question. If you got a male football coach, he's a university employee, correct?
Yes.
How much does Matt Rule make a year?
I think what now? Probably 7.5 this year.
Okay, $7.5 million.
What's your question? Keep going. That 11% beer is kicking your butt, man.
No,
what you're trying to say is Amy Williams isn't making $7.5 million.
Forget Amy Williams.
John Cook.
Forget John Cook.
Fred Hoiberg.
Female, working in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
She's making $70,000 a year.
Okay.
Not $7 million. I'm trying to be optimistic here. She's making $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
So when you become an employee, there's not Title IX stipulations.
Title IX fucking goes away.
Right. So,
and so many people have argued with me. I've gotten in like verbal fistfights on Twitter over this, where everybody's like, "Yeah, we cannot bring this in house. We cannot make them employees because Title IX." And I'm like, this completely removes Title IX from the discussion.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in that?
No, I think you're right, Rob.
That's my question.
So if it's
am I wrong in thinking
if it's a straight NIL deal, there's probably a question on if you get $1 million in to the university to support NIL. The question becomes for Title IX. Do you have to, if you're not an employee, you probably have to adhere to Title IX and give it out equitably to both men and women. But if you take your step that okay, you're an employee, and then I don't think Title IX applies.
See, that's the thing. I think if that was real, the female cafeteria worker would have been suing the university president 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that has nobody has raised that legal argument. Title IX does not apply to university employees.
It just means equal opportunity in participation in facilities, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, okay, the moment these athletes become university employees, in my opinion, that simplifies the shit out of it.
But they won't like it. I mean, you can fire me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
and
there's things you sign. Okay,
there's a rabbit hole though.
Yeah.
There's things you sign up for. And I mean, as an athlete,
So if they're employees, I'm gonna send them a bill for their education. I'm gonna send them a bill for their training table. I'm gonna spend a bill for strength and conditioning.
Wow.
Think about that.
See, there's always unintended consequences or stuff that people don't think about.
There's a million ways to work this. Although when I sit back and think about this, so when I was coming out of high school, and this is in the late 1980s, this is 40 years ago.
God, you're old.
35 years ago, 35. I'm looking at schools that we've had the Simpson College discussion. Yeah. We've had the Nebraska discussion. It's like I'm looking at both ends of the spectrum. There were Ivy League schools in there. It's like I'm going to go to school, and they got work-study programs with the Ivy League schools, because I guarantee you most of the football team, basketball team, volleyball team, they're not paying at Harvard what the average Harvard student is paying for school.
I would agree with you.
They're working a deal. I get the whole, well, there's no scholarships in the Ivy League. Okay, I understand there's technically no scholarships in the Ivy League. Guess what? They're working a deal. Somewhere there's a deal. And so you're looking at that in the sense of, like, what are the regulations on this? What are the Title IX implications of all of this stuff?
Well, there's going to be a lot of there's employment law here that's going to be either created or changed or something in all likelihood.
It is, but I mean, a lot of that employment law is already in place.
That's right. It's
one of these things where you're going to say, okay, all right, let's come in as employees. Fine, guess what? All right, you're paying taxes. Here's the breakdown of stuff, and all of a sudden, Title IX goes away.
That's just what you want to do, is send out more W-2s, isn't it?
And then, okay, think about this. So university,
but from a Title IX regulatory standpoint,
no, I know what you mean.
Remove Title IX from the equation. What does that do to all?
Well, then, think about this. The university's retirement plan, 2-year cliff vest. So after you've been here 2 years, okay, you're automatically participating at this level, and we're matching this as well.
good for the athlete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm sitting here going like, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, I know, but how? Okay, down the future, somebody
but
staying.
again, those are dollars.
Yeah, somebody staying 4 years is probably slim to none anymore. So if it's 3, okay, they cash in on their last year of retirement.
Wow, that's again stuff that the average person doesn't even think about, because once you start going down certain rabbit holes, you can keep going. It can come up like this: are you signing a letter of intent? Or are you signing a contract?
Right.
But that's the thing is, though, when you look at the employment side, you look at that contract side, you look at that. Okay, well, I'm now a university employee side of things. There's at least some degree of foundation there. There's some degree of framework there that's already in place for that. The question is, are you a cafeteria worker or are you a university president?
That's and they're not equal.
No. And okay, then
they are not.
Then I'm going to background check you.
Yeah.
All the stuff that goes with hiring.
Wow. See,
Which, although I will say this, having had 2 kids come out of high school and compete in college athletics at this point, the background check's already happening.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So you mentioned the Marylands and Rutgers of the world, and I'm not having you put Nebraska in this spot, but I do have to ask this from an all college athletics
This
situation.
was my Iowa State, Kansas State question from earlier.
Well, it may be, because Iowa State's already as low as you can go, unless the NCAA changes. Do you see?
What do you mean it's low as
hear me out. Do you see other athletic departments with this cutting sports to be able to meet financial obligations for athletes?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to look. I mean, honestly, we've looked. Okay, we're not looking at the Big Ten. We're looking at the SEC now. And they typically have 19, 20 sports. We got 23, 24, so we're looking, okay, they're spreading their money out over fewer sports.
I mean, because
that's a great question. That's a great answer.
How many sports in Nebraska make money? I mean, real money.
3. So football,
men's basketball,
volleyball, the only women's sport in the nation ever to make money.
So.
Which, by the way, that should be celebrated a little bit.
It should be. Now, is that a consistent thing year in and year out, or did this year with the 92,000 help with that?
No, well, 92,000 didn't hurt. So,
you know what, though?
So if you look,
Nebraska could make that an annual event. I think 90,000 people would show up.
I don't disagree with you, but once you've set the record, okay, what's the point of doing it again?
You know what? You don't have to set the record.
Right.
Let's every year put 60 to 80,000 people in a stadium to watch 4 volleyball teams play.
And you wouldn't have to do the whole state like the Wayne State UNO thing.
You
could bring in Stanford. I mean,
you want to get that's what I was going to say. You want to make this shit interesting. Yeah. Let's get Iowa over here.
Yeah, but they suck at volleyball.
Exactly, because it's Iowa. Let's get Iowa State.
They're not bad. Christy Johnson's over there.
Christy's up there. She's a Husker. I went to college with her.
She's Miller North grad, right?
Well, actually, that just went outside of my sphere.
Yeah, I think she went to Miller North. She coached at Miller North and ended up at Iowa State. So, yeah, it's crazy. Hey, I do want to say Husker Hounds is the place to be when you want to get your Husker gear. Spring shipments are arriving April 1st, plus save up to 50% on last year's gear. That's still in stock. Keep your eyes and ears open, folks. Husker Hounds will be having an autograph session on April 20th before the spring game. Details will be coming. Husker Hounds, 2 locations in the Omaha area and online at huskerhounds.com. The Orr Law Group. Connor provides positive and experienced representation. The Orr Law Group is a general practice and can help you with corporate, real estate, estate planning, and litigation needs. As a registered sports agent, Connor Orr serves as the official NIL expert for the Doc Talk podcast. And don't forget to support our good friends at Husker Max. They help distribute the Doc Talk podcast. Husker Max is the authority of Husker athletics when it comes to outside voices. Check them out and support them at huskermax.com. Of course, Doug Ewald, the CFO of Husker Athletics, is our guest on the Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports. Baseball's in full swing.
Yeah, I'm the sport administrator for baseball this year.
Are you serving alcohol at Hawksfield yet?
No, sir.
People want to go to a baseball game and drink a beer.
Yes, they do.
I want to eat some peanuts. I want to drink.
What's the holdback on that?
I sat here a year ago and told you we couldn't get it done or didn't get it done, and here we failed in the last 2 weeks again. I've got baseball parents coming up to me. Hey, when are we going to be able to have that beer? I said, well, not this year. We couldn't agree to financial terms with respect to the sale of beer.
It's a beer.
I know.
So my son,
You're biting. All I know is I see he's biting his tongue. It's like, okay, we got to walk back on this one a little bit.
So I want you to like think about this. So I'm an idea guy. I'm really not, but
I think you are.
okay. So idea guy. My son goes to Augustana University in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Plays on the football team up there. The Augustana microbiology department started a minor in brewing.
Is Ryan in that?
No, and I'm highly, highly disappointed about that. Anyway, there's a lot of chemistry there, and he's not a chemistry guy, but they make an official Augustana beer.
Do they sell it at football games?
Yes.
I mean, with all the ag and everything, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Like one of my microbiology profs, it was hilarious. So when I'm in college, this is in the early 1990s. This is 35, 40 years ago. I'm talking with him, and like for Thanksgiving every year, in their autoclaves that they used to like sterilize stuff, they would roast turkeys. And they would brew beer because they're microbiologists. They know yeast. They would brew beer and roast turkeys and have this absolute weekend-long Thanksgiving celebration within the microbiology department at Nebraska.
Interesting.
All in-house, all make their own beer. Anyway, Augustana.
All we want is Bud Light at a baseball game.
I know. This seems like, my point is with this is that it seems like it would, listen, when Augustana is brewing their own goddamn beer to sell at athletic events,
Yeah.
Nebraska can't cut a deal with Busch Light, for God's sake.
Well,
I'm not saying this on you. I'm just saying.
no, and here's, Haymarket Park is not our facility.
Which does throw a wrench in the
does throw a wrench.
Okay,
We don't control the operating. They can
Is Pinnacle Bank Nebraska?
no.
That city of
That's
Lincoln?
the JPA, Joint Haymarket or whatever down there. So we have an agreement with them. The Regents approved the sale of alcohol there. We get 10% of net, but in exchange for 10% of net, I got all of the financial data from PBA, because I'm in the process of renegotiating an extension there. So Haymarket saw that, offered me 10% of net. They wanted 90% of the 43% net. And I said, here's the deal, guys. I took 10% because I'm getting a whole bunch of other data over here because I'm in the process of renewing that. That didn't matter to them. I offered 50-50 of the net, and we didn't get anywhere.
Wow. That's a loss for the fans, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm listening to these numbers and I'm looking at it and going like, okay, that's a loss for them.
Yes. You're going to get zero or 50% of the 43%.
Like instead of like they're sitting there saying literally, we would rather take zero than take a profit.
Right.
And the hard part is you guys are the only ones who really put butts in the seats on a regular basis.
True.
Wow.
Now, and I'll say this, Jim and Jack Abel have been great to the university from that standpoint. So I don't know if they might be getting a little bad advice on this. I don't know, but they've been super donors to Lincoln down there. And I just hope we can get it figured out here, honestly.
I mean, I look at that and I think from a general experience standpoint, and here's the other thing too. Again, it's not like it's any secret. I like drinking beer. We come on the podcast and drink beer.
You're almost at a 6-pack right now.
I'm only 3 in.
You're 4 in.
And a
you got
half.
a 5th here.
3.5. That's Doug's beer.
Only Rob. Only Rob.
I'm good at math, dude.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
You're good at math.
Half.
Yes.
Half.
Okay. You
It's
go
only
ahead and tell
half.
yourself that.
Anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with this. But I mean, just from a numbers standpoint, okay, from a fan experience standpoint, I was at the inaugural University of Nebraska beer sale event.
Okay.
They hosted Big Ten Wrestling at
Yeah.
Pinnacle Bank a couple years ago. That was the first event that they had alcohol sales at I'll say a university hosted event. I guess that might be
Correct.
the best way to phrase
Yes.
it. Good
Wildly
Lord.
successful.
Oh my God, that was fun.
How are beer sales at PBA? Good?
Yes, PBA, it's very good. Men's games in particular will add an extra $4 to $5 to the per cap.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's a question.
We're waiting.
So is it, asshole, freaking Iowa person. Does the university, as opposed to PBA and Haymarket, does the university have full control over Memorial Stadium?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's not beer sale at Memorial Stadium yet, right?
There's not.
Not yet.
But
How long?
Well, it depends on when the modernization will happen to the extent. I'm hoping 26.
Okay.
I know.
my question is, you talk about that like that profit margin that you get at PBA and what you were hoping to get at Haymarket. What's that profit margin at a completely university controlled facility?
You know, for volleyball day, we entered into a 60-40 split. So we got 40%. You know, they got 20, and then they had to cover all the
So what's it at PBA?
PBA. We only get 10%, but I only took 10% because I'm getting all the financial data associated with PBA.
And I understand
Yeah.
there's a value in that data.
Correct.
But I mean, we're talking like when you had that at Memorial Stadium, you quadrupled it
Right.
by having it under your control.
That's right. So we've had great discussions with the Liquor Control Commission, what they want to do. We've proved to the regents that we can do this. We're walking, and then I would hope that we'll bring to them. And I'm not. Every time I say this, the regents go, "Doug, you painted us in the corner." I said, "Here's the deal. No, the regents, you have the ultimate authority on this. We're probably going to bring them to be able to sell at Devaney. So we'll take it facility by facility here. We've proved to them.
What volleyball fans like?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be. They probably warm wine or
Beer. No, beer.
You think so?
Beer. Yeah, they like beer.
So you'll start at Devaney before you go to...
Yeah, 'cause-
Here's the thing, though. You can sell wine in a goddamn can now.
Yes, you can.
Right.
I've seen it.
Yes.
I've seen people. My wife drinks wine out of a can once in a while. It's not often. But
Do coaches want... I mean, do coaches say it, or do
I
they
think
not
they're
care?
agnostic to it.
Okay.
They don't know that they really care.
okay, here's the thing. If there's money coming into the athletic department that eventually filters its way down to NIL facilities, their salaries, they are going to be okay with it.
Right. Because here's the deal. All they care about is are they winning on the field? Well, I need to stand up as many revenue sources as possible to help facilitate them winning on the field, on the court, whatever that is.
Boom. Right
revenue
there.
streams are important, and it's hard
Bottom
to find new
line.
revenue streams,
Right.
right? I mean, there's so many different ones, but I mean, everything's changing.
And that's
Costs are going to
a
get cheaper.
bottom line that I think is just so ungodly untapped at the university right now. It's not like I haven't talked about this before.
No, you have.
I love gambling and alcohol.
Well, I was going to go into. Let's go into something that's taboo. This podcast is brought to you by Betfred Sports. Gambling's now legal in Nebraska. It's a fine line.
kind of, sort of.
Yeah, they don't have the app yet.
If you're in the right place, you can gamble.
Yeah. Do you ever see a place because I'll use the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now they have a sports book at the stadium that's Betfred. I know it's a fine line and it's slippery slope. Do you ever see gambling companies in the stadium.
Honestly, yeah.
Really?
I can see the future. I don't know how far, but where you're going to walk in, you're going to buy your beer, and you're going to right next to and place your bet on whatever. Might not be able to place it on your team, but something to facilitate that. Because here's the deal: somebody's going to come in there, and they're going to give us a whole bunch of capital to help monetize other parts of the stadium, whether it be concessions or other things.
And that makes sense.
Here's the thing. It's going to be better from a fan experience standpoint.
Yeah.
Let's make all of this better. And now you don't have to bet.
No.
Right. No, you don't.
That's perfectly fine. But guess what? If your seats are better because of that, though, if you're paying ever so slightly less in ticket prices because of that, that's better. If your team is signing a slightly better recruit because of that and some of that money filters down, however that works out, that's a good thing.
I don't disagree with you, but it's just interesting. It's one of those things you don't want to talk about, but behind closed doors it's getting talked about.
Well, don't believe it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, here's
being talked about.
I mean,
exactly.
So we talk about a lot of this stuff. I mean, look at it from the stance of NIL in general. Go back to Jim Tressel, Ohio State, Tattoo Gate.
Yep.
And we're sitting here going like, oh my God, that was a thing. Like a national title winning coach
Lost his job because of it.
Lost his job over that. And in this day and age, we're going like, wait, hold on a second. There wasn't even money involved. We're talking bowl game medallions, sweatshirts.
And tattoos.
Right. Trading hands. I mean, this is like third world country bartering system here. And we got national title winning coaches losing their jobs over it. And now we're talking,
in some cases, millions of dollars.
Alcohol and gambling.
Millions of dollars.
Yes. Well, and that brings in, I don't know if you read the Caitlin Clark article on ESPN.com, but it was interesting because she went on.
Which one?
Well, it was
there was like nine.
Being Caitlin Clark, when she went to Europe this past year, they needed a girls' night out, so she rented a yacht. That just told me, can you imagine 20 years ago?
She rented a yacht?
She rented the yacht. She says, you know what? I want a girls' night out. My point is this. A lot of people don't know what Caitlin Clark, she was valued at $900,000. We now know that it's a lot more than that.
Okay, all I know is I go to Hy-Vee. It's like 2 blocks from my house.
And she's all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, do you think NIL deals, because there's wild, crazy rumors out there. I mean, hell, I've heard $9 million for Rayola. I don't know if that's true or not true. But do you think they should be public so there's full transparency? And that's kind of the NFL model where you can't play one against another.
Right. That gets to you play for a public institution.
Yeah.
Which I got a FOIA request today on something, and okay, we got it within 7 days. We got to oblige, but okay, if you're an employee, okay, I probably don't have to tell them what what do I have to disclose? I don't know what our athletes are making. I've told our compliance people I don't want to know, so I don't ask or I don't even put them in that situation. But it's the final. Okay, if you're an employee, do we have to disclose your salary? If you're an employee, it's going to be on the. Hey, there's that database out there on the website that shows what you're making. All the coaches, this and that. I think it's in arrears. It's not timely, from what I've seen. But I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's what I would think. If you become an employee, it becomes transparent. Because I think transparency is the best thing, right? That right. Way you can't have one university saying, "Well, they're offering you this much." I mean, and also an athlete going, "Well, they're giving me this," and you always inflate your value just to see what you can get. So
then the question becomes, just from a legal standpoint, if somebody's at a state university versus a private university.
Yeah.
What are the laws? What are the rules that regulate that from and again, I'm just talking about the transparency.
Yeah. Well, and I tell you what, we do a lot of different surveys in the Big Ten, and Northwestern never participates, so guess what? They don't get the data.
Oh, so you don't share data with
No, we don't share data back with them because they don't participate.
Do they get mad because they don't get it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they've learned that, hey, that's kind of the rule. If you participate in the survey, you get the final survey results. If I put a survey out, I accumulate all the data, so everybody sends it to me, and then I push it back out to everybody saying, okay, here's the final results. It could be a men's basketball, women's basketball survey. It could be football coach survey, whatever that is with all the assistants. But if you don't respond, you don't get the data.
So, you mentioned you've only known Troy for a week now, but there was the big fan survey where you guys come up with what's the most important, kind of like a master plan,
right?
A lot of people. I guess the big question now is, and you may not even know this: does the stadium renovation project move forward?
That's a great question. We had a meeting yesterday. Troy was in it. He's asking the right questions. He's asking some tough questions. Before he's willing to go say one way or the other, he's got his due diligence to do, and he hasn't been able to do that. We haven't sit down and talked financials,
which every good leader should do.
Exactly. Yeah. But here's the thing, this, guys. He got questions on his initial press conference about that, and he's going to be able to play ignorance for about 3 days, and everybody's going to expect him to know ins and outs of everything. Let's just be honest. That's who we are.
Yeah.
So he's asking the right questions. I think we hope that we can, because here's the deal. You said it, Travis. This was 22,000 people responded to a survey, and that stadium modernization was the result of activating what our fans were asking for.
Yeah, I mean that and let's be honest about Memorial Stadium. And I know this is sacrilegious to say it. It's a dump. Okay.
It's old.
It's old. It's 100 years old. It's a dump, and it needs. I mean, Wrigley Field was a dump until they renovated it. It's still kind of a dump because you have beams in front of
right.
people. But you have to modernize it. I mean, because if you don't, you do. That's your biggest. You can have the fanciest locker room.
The fan experience counts.
Yeah, but you can have the fanciest locker room in the go big. You can have the greatest practice fields. Fans don't give a crap about that. They want to make sure where they watch a game is enjoyable.
Right. And then if it is, guess what? They're probably going to open their pocketbook a little more.
Yeah.
Willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether that's loge seats or
right.
There's so many different opportunities there.
I just want more than 7 inches for a seat on a bleacher.
Eight.
Your ass is not 8 inches.
I'm like 11. 11.
Man, I just learned something, and Dr. Rob, I'm gonna give you props. You take your Hippocratic and HIPAA oath seriously, because you guys sat down, and I can say this now because Doug let me know. Doug had his knee replaced, and you knocked him out. I didn't know that. Is he? How was he at knocking you out?
Well, I don't remember, so it must have been good. All I know is they don't charge anything to put you under. It's the money when you bring you out is where they charge you.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You would be shocked at the amount of paperwork when we screw that part up.
Oh, I can only imagine.
So much.
What is the biggest challenge facing the athletic department moving forward from a financial standpoint? Because that's your area of expertise.
Right. I'm going to just say monetizing as much as we can, as quickly as we can, to position ourselves for success that way.
Because that's what it's going to take.
We're running a business here, guys. It's that plain and simple. So, we're activating rental space in the stadium and all of our facilities. Okay, this is what it is. Why? Because we can, and we should.
You mean, so if I go at MCL Construction, if I wanted to have one of our tastings up there, I could say, hey, I want to use the lounge up there.
That's right.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. You just gave me an idea.
We'll only charge you double.
Damn it, Doug. Damn it. But see, you have to do it. But that's also part of the fan experience.
That's right.
Because people can go, you're bringing people in, and that's an experience, even if the 92,000 people aren't there.
We'll have donors come in. We just had a donor event here, our leadership society, a luncheon deal. And what we can do then, they're on the West Club, but then we're scrolling their names inside the stadium on the ribbon boards.
So you just got to be creative.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Look at real estate. I was up at Creighton Prep the other day, and they're putting in a new track, and we're building it. Well, and you being from the area, you know that old cinder track at Prep's been there a long time. Well, they took all the gravel off the cinder and they're selling it in jars.
Yeah.
They're like,
did you run on this? If so, you should buy it.
You should
well,
buy
that's just like, on the South Stadium, all the people that paid $50 to put their damn brick in there now want their bricks back if we decide to do something with South. So am I going to extract that and say, okay, throw it in a pile and say, come get it, knock yourself out? You gave us $50 20 years ago,
It's in a pile. Go find it.
Okay, do you know what's funny, though? Is
I'm sure I'm going to get a few emails on that.
So when I played for the Giants, I would always come back to Lincoln off seasons, would go down to the stadium, lift weights, run stadium stairs, do drills out on the turf. They replaced the turf after I left.
Yeah.
And so they're pulling up the turf. And so this would have been 95, 96, I think, right around there. And all of that turf was going into dumpsters. And I'm like, I won 4 conference titles and a national title playing on that turf.
Did you go cut some out?
I want a chunk of that goddamn turf. So I found one of the work crew. Went and asked him, like, hey, do you got I don't care if it's a box cutter. I don't care if it's like shears. What do you got? And he's like, yeah, here you go. Whatever he had that was sharp, he gave me. I had to go dumpster diving and got a chunk of the Memorial Stadium turf that was there from like 91 to 94.
See,
and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I literally had to go dumpster diving for this. How much money could they have made if they had sold this shit?
2x2 squares or 1x1 squares.
Like, here's a framed section of a Memorial Stadium turf that saw 4 conference titles and a national title. Actually, at that point, I think 2 national titles.
And that was the old AstroTurf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So somebody a lot of people will carpet their basin with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You could, the university could have sold reams of that shit.
Now, one thing we did for volleyball day, I said, well, we had ordered a new Terraflex court for volleyball, so we cut the one up from volleyball day and sold it.
Did you really?
Yeah, made 5,000 plaques out of it, $100 a plaque or so. By the time we were done, we made an extra $250,000 on that deal.
How much did the court cost?
40, 50 grand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not crazy.
So it was a net positive.
But that's a sunk cost.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're paying that anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it's one of those, if you look at it from the standpoint of a sunk cost, that's pure, all of it's pure.
Yeah.
What do you think about if we take South down? Okay, you want your seat, come here, we'll get the saws out and...
Well, you can't see it, but up in the corner right behind you, there's a piece of wood. That was my press seat from when they tore the old press box down. So you remember the old press box? That was 94. They put the new one up in 95, was it? But they gave us our old press box. Now, today, you'd probably tell the press people, hey, if you want your press seat, you can buy it.
Right.
Yeah, you can bid on that with all the other fans who want a seat out of the press box.
Oh, Rob.
I'm just saying, it's like the opportunities to make money are there.
Yes. But see, I think what fans struggle with
is beer?
No, it was beer, but I think what they struggle with, and it is hard because the numbers are hard to comprehend. When you say, God, we need more revenue streams, and I totally get it because I think I have a closer understanding, but when people hear, well, you're getting $100 million a year, right? And that's a lot of money to some people, but $100 million would not keep the athletic department afloat.
No way. This last year's budget, call it $200 million.
$200 million.
$200 million.
So where do you rank now nationally with that $200 million?
Well, this is the first year that we're over 200 ever. And I know that somebody tracks it. The big schools over 200. There might be 1 or 2 over 250 maybe.
Man.
I think Ohio State possibly, but then the schools, okay, you look at Stanford, 48 sports, some of that stuff that drives it. I think you need as many revenue sources because I don't know what the future brings.
The interesting part of what I'd like to see is Ohio State at 250, but as you mentioned, they're carrying a lot of debt.
They're in trouble. I hate to say they're not in trouble. Debt-wise, they got a albatross around their neck.
Wow, and that's something you don't have to deal with.
Right.
Are you and just a little bit with Big
We
Red?
took some out with the Go Big. It'll be paid off in June. So we'll be debt free again there. We got an aggressive track with that and paid it off in like 22 months. So
And did I hear correctly? The stadium deal with the philanthropy, the state kick in, university kick in, athletic, that would almost be debt. You wouldn't have to take any debt out on that. Or no?
I think it forecast us taking like $50 million.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at a $500 million
honestly,
project,
we might if we move forward, depending on the scope, we might have to do more just to bridge some of the donations and some of that type of stuff. That's not unusual in the university system to have to bridge those donations. So I'm going to step back to Rob's beer. You'll be happy to know that last week we put an RFP on the street for craft beer in the athletic department.
What craft beer?
it's an RFP, man.
It's an RFP. So if
Can't
you're a brewer, okay, look at the RFP. Do you want to make me a proposal? Okay, you want to brew this type or that type? There's some different things. We're contemplating 3 or 4 different types.
Is it a requirement to be a Nebraska brewer, though?
No. We'll take Iowa's money.
Nice.
There's some good breweries in Iowa.
Yes, there
Sure.
are. Yeah.
So I know Florida State did this.
Oh, really?
One of my so I saw this one. We're talking talk about grassroots level. I mean, when it was this hole in the wall place in Apalachicola, Oyster City Brewing Company.
Yeah. You wear their hat every once in a while.
I do. I like their beer. It's solid. It is now the official craft beer of Florida State University. So they took on a craft brewery, and it's it's kind of, I mean, you can't go anywhere in the like Georgia, Alabama, Florida area without it. It's kind of the beer down there.
Yeah.
now.
We might have to think about this with just the domestics. Okay, say in the fall we got the Busch Light Bushel 30-pack with the
Custom can?
custom can. Exactly.
The thing with a craft brewer, and you'll know this doing the RFP, is that there's a lot of good craft brewers out there, but when you're talking being the official craft brewer of a university, you've got to have the production.
You
to be
got
able to do it.
exactly. So in large part, there'll be people that will be excluded because they won't be able to produce the volume that's required.
Yeah.
And that's the
Unfortunately.
one thing, well, and that's the one thing that happened with Oyster City at Florida State is that they kind of turned into sort of like one of the big kids on the block. I mean, they're kind of like Florida's Budweiser now. I mean,
That's part of growth.
It is. It was kind of cool to see it 10 years ago when this was like 2 dudes who did the whole like, hey, we came up with this recipe in our garage. Let's try and turn it into a business. Now those 2 guys are millionaires, but they've since sold it out to a larger company, and there you go. But it's on the flip side, you go to a Florida State athletic event. The beer is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
But to your point, I mean, funding an entire athletic department, if you were to sell it in the stadium stuff, that would almost take some brewers, that would be their whole production.
It would. So this contemplates right now just retail.
Okay.
But if you modernize the stadium, do I anticipate them? Heck yes. And some of them, the craft brewers today, I think they can have 5 different brew without having to go through the distributor. They go straight to their from that, so they don't have to get skimmed off the top.
Well, because distributors are the worst thing for craft brewers.
Oh, absolutely.
Because once they sign with them, it's like the mafia, and they can't get out of it.
They're the ones making all the money here.
Yes.
And so there's a bill in the legislature last year, which I rolled over to this year to double that number from 5 to 10. So I've had some craft brewers tell me, if you let me, I will stand one of those 10 up in the stadium.
Oh, that'd be... And that's what people want. And if it can be local, people really get into that. Really get into that. So, Doug, got any big Easter plans? A lot of people will be listening to this after Easter, but what do you do for Easter?
We're kind of laying low. Dane and Amanda, son, and our new grandson crew, 3 months old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yep. So they'll be over on Sunday. Kaylin Morgan will not be back there, but I think going to her folks. They're expecting here in August. So we got another one on my side coming in August, and we got the 3-year-old on Robin's side anyway. So She's a character.
Robin's here. She's in the background. I'm glad she's not freaked out about coming to the basement anymore. I think she's enjoying the basement. So everybody's like, I'm going to. We had Brendan Stein here. We've had Tony Veland, and they're like, I'm going to a basement, and we have to just kind of explain.
Bring out the gimp.
It's a badge of shut up.
It's a badge of honor, right?
It's a badge of honor. People like coming to the basement, and we're honored.
I'm still trying to get rule here. I'm working still.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'm giving up. I'm giving up. Owen's back there laughing at me because
you probably have a better chance of getting Troy here.
Well, I'm working on that. I'm working on that. So it's I don't know if you knew this. We did a lot. We went live the night he was hired, and as soon as he landed on the plane, he called our show. We were the first one he called. Right. So and it was a weird thing because we were wrapping up the show, and Owen's doing the phone calls, and he's like, "Dad,
So we've got StreamYard as the platform we do the show on. So it's myself, Owen, and you on StreamYard.
Okay.
We got a sidebar on the computer screen, so we're all looking at a computer screen. You and Owen are here on two different screens. I'm at home. I'm 7 miles away or whatever. I'm looking at my computer screen, and all of a sudden I see Owen typing into you. Take the call. Take the call. Take the call. Take the call.
Because
you want to take the call.
We were wrapping
take
up.
The call. Please take the call. Dad, take the goddamn call.
So because we were wrapping up and he wasn't going to answer the phone, and he decided to answer the phone. And
because I heard you when you start usually saying the sponsors and thanks for listening and stuff, and I see the phone ring, and I'm thinking I'm not going to answer it because we're wrapping up. And then I'm like, well, I'll just tell who's ever calling that we're wrapping up. So I go, Doc, thanks for calling Doc Talk. What's your name? And I just hear Troy Dannon. I just go, okay, hold on.
Yeah, but Troy and I go back 33 years when he was the media liaison for the Iowa Girls Athletic Association, and we've just maintained contact after that, and he's been good to me. I tell you what, when he worked at Tulane, he kind of looked out for my daughters. So my daughters went to Loyola New Orleans, but they worked at the coffee shop on Tulane's campus. And he would go in every morning to get a coffee from them. He would talk to them. It was just one of those things where, and he'd send me a picture with him, and I'm like, that's really cool. He didn't have to do that,
right.
But he just kind of let me know my daughters were doing okay, and they were doing good. So I mean he's an Iowa guy. But what that really means is he's a Midwestern guy.
That's right,
and I think he'll fit in fine.
No, I think he will too. I'm excited to get the opportunity to work with him and look forward to figuring this thing out. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, and as you mentioned, you're in a much better situation, or Nebraska's in a much better situation than a lot of athletic departments across the country, which is a good place to be in. Doug, thank you so much. Happy Easter, and just know you're invited here anytime you want.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my wife's upstairs making craft cocktails for Robin, and maybe we'll,
I think baseball wins the Big Ten this year. By the way,
wow!
I'm going to say that right now. That would be our fourth Big Ten conference or co-conference championship year. We haven't had that many since 13-14.
Okay, I'm going to stop. We're going to start the music over because I got into an argument with a fan about baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, this has never happened before. Been doing this for a decade. Over a decade with Travis. We've never stopped the music and restarted the fucking podcast.
So you got some work to do here.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Here's the deal. I got in an argument with a fan. Okay, let's use Major League Baseball opening day was yesterday.
Right.
Okay, 3-4 games were postponed because of weather. Okay, and the fans were saying the first game at Haymarket was bad weather, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was cold. And like, this is what's wrong with college baseball. I'm like, guys, it's not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. And they're like, you need to move the College World Series to July. I'm like, you don't understand. It's already, when I came to work in Omaha, the College World Series was that last weekend in May, first week in June. We've already pushed this thing back to mid-June. Now, am I wrong to say the schedule, you can start baseball when you start baseball?
Well, here's the deal. I'm sitting out there. I'm talking to Will the day before we're leaving to go to Dallas to open, down there at Globe Life. And it's 60 degrees and we're outside, and it's the second week of February. And we both said, we're going to get back here in March, and the weather's going to turn to shit. and it did. Okay. And he goes, you're absolutely right. He goes, it's that 20, the rule is 28 degrees.
Yes.
In order to compete. But that means, hey, that's where we live. The guys get it. They adapt. That's why we got 5 Canadians. We got 5 Canucks on the team. These doesn't bother these guys.
I mean, the other thing is, though, too, I mean, when you look at some of these non-conference series,
I don't want to go to most of them anyway.
Yeah, Grand Canyon University is a great non-conference series.
Absolutely.
College of Charleston's a great non-conference series. I have no problem with Nebraska doing that until April.
I mean, cause one of my things was I said athletes don't mind going to the South to play.
No.
And the guy said, you are wrong.
Guess what? We kind of liked the bowl game trip. You were A-okay
And
with
this
that.
fan, and I forget what his name is, but he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Players don't want to travel. I'm like, oh, yes, they do. They don't mind going to Phoenix. They don't mind going to Florida.
No, absolutely. We
love road trips.
But my point was, you could postpone it to March 25th, and you're still going to run into the same weather things.
Yeah, you run into snow,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't play at K-State this week because they got snow on their field down there on Tuesday, and we wanted to play that game. Why? They're at 19 RPI. That helps us.
Yeah.
Big time.
I used to own a home in Lincoln.
Yeah.
The worst snowstorm I ever experienced living in Nebraska. I mean, we're talking 47 years now. Was in April.
Yeah.
It happens.
The worst snowstorm ever was April.
You can move the season all you want.
Yeah.
But no matter when you start, late March, early April, you can still. But I just don't know how the NCAA could do it if you start in April. It makes zero sense to me.
No, and we had. I told Will, look at this.
You're going to be battling for. I mean,
early February, the temperatures were as nice in Lincoln as they were in Phoenix.
Yeah, but I mean, on the back end of this, you're going to be looking at trying to do the College World Series in end of August?
That doesn't make any sense. No, that doesn't work.
And when it comes to transfer portal now and all that stuff, and they're like, guys would rather play college baseball than get to the pros. Would they?
No, that's a grind, man. Believe me. No, that's a grind. So
yeah. So
it's all a grind, though. But
I'm glad we brought that subject up because I have a university official that's on my side, Mr. Fan, who thinks they know it all. There, now I can start the music.
Now, be on the outlook for the next stadium event this summer. I'm working on. I can't say. I'm not going to.
Come on! You can't drop this shit on us.
I'm dropping it. I can't.
God damn it!
I can't. I'm going to have to come.
Fight?
Is there going to be volleyball involved?
No.
Wrestling?
No. Mud wrestling.
Follow Dr. Rob on Twitter, or we call it X now, at Doc Talk Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Travis Creates. Like our Facebook page. Doc Talk Sports is what you need to search, and follow us on TikTok. But most importantly, subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can watch Doug, you can watch Dr. Rob, you can watch myself on YouTube. This channel is growing, but we have much more room for many more subscribers. For Doug Ewald, for Dr. Rob Zadisk, I'm Travis Justice. We will talk to you next time on the Doc Talk Podcast, presented by Betfred Sports.